What's up everybody, I'm Derek, this is Rocking eForge, and this is part 4 of Weird Weapons of History, a series where I research and briefly discuss historical edged weapons that I think are pretty unique. Now today's Weird Weapon of History is the second in this series from India. The Chakram, also known as the Chakar, Chakra, Chalikar, or Battle Quoit, is a steel or brass ring, typically 5 to 12 inches in diameter, sharpened along the outer edge and thrown during combat. Now the reason I chose the Chakram as today's Weird Weapon of History is that unique ring shape. The ring shape of the Chakram seems to be the only one of its kind throughout history. I did find one source that mentioned a weapon used by the Jubba Tribe in Central Africa called the Chakarani, which may have been named by an Indian visitor to the area. However, I couldn't find anything to corroborate this assertion other than just the one source. Now, another reason I chose the Chakram for today's video is the fact that that outer edge of that ring was typically, or at least frequently, sharpened all the way around, which in my mind posed a bit of a risk to the user of the Chakram. However, this risk was never specifically called out in the sources as a drawback to the weapon. Another reason I chose the Chakram to highlight in this video was the fact that it was worn by Sikh warriors either on tall conical turbans or in smaller forms called chakri on their wrists, used either as symbols of their Sikh beliefs or used in actual combat during certain periods of time in the Punjab state of India. And the final reason is they just remind me of like the modern day aerobes, like these, which, you know, reminds me of my childhood and makes me feel young again. Now the history of the Chakram is not super clear. However, it does seem to have originated in India and stayed there nearly at the entirety of its lifetime, so to speak. Now the earliest mention of the Chakram is the portrayal of the Chakram as one of the primary weapons of the Hindu god Vishnu in texts written somewhere between 1500 and 100 BC. Now, while I couldn't find a definitive time frame where the Chakram was purported to have been made originally, it was adopted by the Sikh Akali warriors, an elite warrior of the Sikh army, or some sources discuss them as a suicide squad of some sort, which was a group founded by the 10th Guru Gobind Singh, around the year 1690. In response to the Sikh persecution at the hands of the Mughals at the time. Now, the Chakram became a signature weapon of the Akali warriors, who were also called Nihangs, or Nihangs, I'm not sure the pronunciation, but this translates from Persian to crocodile, in an attempt to characterize their vicious and highly effective combat prowess during battle. Now, the Akali warriors, and by some extension the Sikhs themselves, carried the Chakram on their tall conical turbans as well as around their wrists as a symbol of their Sikh or Akali beliefs since the 16th century, but it's also purported that they carried these for use in combat throughout the history of the Sikh warriors. Now the Chakram have either been used or worn symbolically by the Sikh, and they've been used off and on through various conflicts since the founding of the Akali themselves, even so far as to be highlighted in an edition of Popular Mechanics published in April of 1916, being used by Sikh warriors fighting in France during World War I. Now, use or employment of the Chakram is fairly straightforward. The Chakram has been described as a primarily or solely thrown weapon, and it was purported to have been used by the Sikh or Akali warriors, thrown in volleys against their enemies, which is not the most fun mental image if you are on the receiving end of a bunch of sharp steel aerobes all flying through the air from 50 elite Sikh warriors. Now there were two typical ways that the Chakram was thrown, much in the same manner that you and I would throw a frisbee, pinched between the forefinger and the thumb and thrown forward, or the Tajani method, which was described as spinning the Chakram on the pointer finger and releasing with a flick of the wrist in the direction of the enemy force. The Chakram were purported to have ranges exceeding 50 meters and were described as leaving deep gashes or vicious wounds when used in combat. One way or another, it had mixed descriptions as either a very effective and lethal weapon, or an ineffective and inaccurate weapon, likely due to variations in the way that they were thrown, or maybe even simply due to being thrown off course by a gust of wind. Now, the Chakram can be seen throughout history in, of course, art portraying the ancient Hindu god Vishnu, but also more recently in shows like Xena Warrior Princess, or episode 2 of season 1 of Forged in Fire, where it was highlighted as the final round weapon of that episode. Now, I do plan to hand forge every weapon that I highlight in this series at some point, and I really think the Chakram is going to be a very interesting weapon to make. I do think that having a bladed aerobi around the house might be a irresponsible decision on my part, but short of maybe testing in a future video, I'll just plan to use it as a decoration far out of the reach of children. Now, if I missed anything or got anything wrong in this video, please let me know in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like, leave a comment, hit subscribe, ring that notification bell. If you want to support me in the channel further, please consider becoming an honorary striker on my Patreon. Link is in the description below the video. And as always, keep on rocking.